Hi Blender fans and welcome to this Christmassy tutorial. In this tutorial what we're going to do is we're going to make this spring bauble. Follow me right to the end. I'll show you how you can actually convert this into a transparency so you can import it into any scene as a overlay. So let's begin. So we've got our cube here and what we're going to do is actually make our bauble. So press the tab key to go into edit mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to merge vertices at center to start with. And then what we'll do is we're just going to move the actual 1 point we've got to the side. So G and X, I'm only moving it slightly to the side and then we'll come back out of edit mode by pressing the tab key. So for this tutorial, we're going to use an add-on, and this has actually been given away with Blender 5, so let's just load the add-on. So we go into edit, we go to preferences, and what we've got here, we've got extensions. So we're going to actually put extra objects, and this is the actual object we're going to actually do, which is the extra curved object. Now when you actually have installed it, what you can do then is go into the add-ons, put extra objects, and then enable it just like that, and then back to our scene. So we've got our point there and we're in edit mode. So what we'll do is we're just going to add in a curve, but what we've now seen is that we've got a spiral here and we're going to actually make this sphere. So hit the sphere and as you can see you've got this shape. And what we'll do is we'll just open this up here and you can actually turn your spiral into the bauble that we saw. Now it's up to you how many rings you do, but I think that looks about right, but maybe just one less. I'll set that to 9. And the more detail you want, say you want to actually create a lot of glitter by flat shading the finished article, then this here helps you actually make it more complex or simple depending on your computer. I'm just going to set this to about 35 because I think that's enough. So we've actually got our spiral already. So I'm just going to actually come out of the spiral and then I'm going to select this point here and I'm going to press Ctrl and plus and then X delete vertices. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want it to be exactly on the actual center point here. So as you can see, it's not quite on the center point. Let's have a look and let's just delete that one as well. Back to the top of our sphere. So we're looking at here from the front and as you can see slightly offset, so I'm just going to E and Z just to actually give me a little bit more there, just like that. And then I'm going to add in in fact I'm going to come out of edit mode and I'll add in a torus, mesh torus. Now the torus is too big, so I'm going to actually increase the actual ring just to make it into a little loop. This is the easiest way and it depends how complicated you want something, but I'm just going to set it to about there and then scale it right down. So rotate on the X by 90, rotate on the X by 90, sorry, and then move it up to the top of our point. Now it's a bit hard to see where the top of our point is, so what we'll do is we'll add a bit of thickness to this. So what we can do to our spiral, as you can see you've got this smiley face down here, and if we go into geometry we'll add a bit of complexity to this. So we can actually just thicken this out just like that, and you can see our line's not exactly long enough, so I'm just going to go out into edit mode and just actually grow this slightly. So G and Z just to move it up and then scale it down maybe. And there you've got it, you've got your top of your circle, and what we can do now is fill the caps in on both sides just like that. So we've made ourselves the actual spiral for our animation. So let's come out of edit mode and what we'll do is now add a bit of colour to this, but what we need to do is change this into a mesh to make it work. So I went into object up there convert and convert to mesh. So now what we've got there is we've got our spiral, which enables us to take our ring now and G and Z and move it up. It's entirely up to you how complex you make things, but I'm just going to go onto the 7 key and I'm going to put it into the center of my circle just there, and that will just offset it. And what we can now do is glue these together. So select that, hold the shift down, select the spiral and join them together. Now, like I say, it's up to you how thick or thin you want your spiral to be. I think I've done this one a bit thicker than the actual one on the intro, but there you are. Right, I'm just going to actually make sure that I'm in Eevee, because Eevee is good enough to do this thing. So I'm in Eevee. I'm just going to press the tab key and go into edit mode. And what I'm going to do now is actually, in fact, come out of edit mode. What we'll do is we're going to go into the material, add two materials. One's going to be a silver and one's going to be a red. So take the metallic up to 1, take the roughness down to 0, and if we go into render mode, as you can see, it more or less vanishes at the minute, and that's because we haven't got an HDRI image in our scene. So let's just go into there. Where are we? There. As you can see, that's the default HDRI in Blender, just to show you what it's going to look like in our scene. So we've got that. It's now silver, but I think I want that one, the base color, to be red. So I'm going to change it to red, and I'll rename it red. Add another color, and this one I want to be the white color. So same again, metallic up to 1, roughness down to 0, and what we can do now is you can actually shade. If you want this to have glitter on, you shade flat it, make it shade flat, which means each one of these faces acts like glitter, or you can shade auto smooth if you want it to be totally smooth. And as you can see, it's a little bit chunky, so I might add a subdivision modifier into this before I render it. So now what we'll do is we'll select this top ring here by pressing the Alt key down, going on to line select, and as you can see, it's selected a line on our spiral, and I'm just going to press Ctrl and plus just to grow our selection, and I'm going to make this silver color. So select silver. I'll just rename that quickly. Select the silver and assign. So as you can see, we've now got a silver ring on our red spiral, just like that. Like I say, you can add in a subdivision modifier if you want your render to look cleaner, which I'm just going to do now. Add subdivision surface, did that on the spanner or wrench, just like that, and rendering in 2, turn the viewport to 2, and that's what it's going to actually look like in our scene. But as you can see, there's next to no reflections apart from the default. So if we actually go into render mode, as you can see, it's very dark. So I'm just going to add in an HDRI. So go into this little world, go into color, environment texture, and what I'll do is I'll load an environment texture from Polyhaven, and I think this one's called Neon. Right, so I've got Neon in 1K and I've got Neon in 4K, depending on how much detail you want. Now, we don't want that background to show in our scene. As you can see, this is the Neon HDRI, but we don't want that to show in our scene, so let's just hide it. So go into the render all the way down to film and then transparent. So now it's hidden it from our scene. So next I'm going to add in a mesh, and the mesh is going to be a cylinder, and this is going to be our little golden piece of string that fastens this to. So I'm just going to put this up, look from the top, go back down and just centralize it just there. The reason I'm doing this, it just looks a little bit better. You know how string curls and everything, so it seems to wobble slightly. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to scale this up in the Z, just like that. Scale it up a bit more, scale it in the Z a bit more, and I'm just going to have that go off my screen. But normally it'd be on a piece of string, and that's why the actual bauble keeps turning. Into edit mode by pressing the tab key, Control and R, and I'm just going to actually move a loop cut down here. That's in fact back off so you can see it. GG, just to move it down to the base here, just to actually have cleaner edges. And I'm just going to add another one, because there we go, just like that. So I'm just going to have a little ball on the bottom of our scene. So going to face select, I'm just going to press the Alt key and select this ring here and extrude the normals. Extrude along normals, and I'm just making this a little bit bigger. And we'll attach another colour to this, and what will make this a goldy colour. So I'm just going to go full metallic, roughness, shade smooth it, just like that, and change the colour to some kind of goldy colour, whichever you like. And now we'll join this to this. So select that, hold shift down, select that, and then join. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of distortion up there because it's going to a point. But what we can do is just put another loop cut in there, just like that. So going to X-ray mode, I'm just going to slightly offset this, just to actually give that little whittle of the string. And it's up to you how you want this to actually work. So now I'm going to select this whole item, go into object and set origin to volume of mass because I want it to turn evenly. So we've got that, and there we have it. We've got 250 frames. Now the animation was over 600 frames, but it's entirely up to you because it'll render quite quickly in Eevee. But we do over 600 frames just to show you. So you've got 600 frames, which I've just increased there. And what we'll need to do is actually turn this around. So I'm just going to open this up. If we press Control and left click, it takes us back right to the beginning. Or you can hit this, which will take us to the first frame. Now the first frame, I'm going to actually make it so it's 1800. So we go into the properties of our bauble, and I'm going to make it minus 1800 on the Z-axis. Right, you might run into some problems here. There's one thing I forgot to do, and it's press Control and A. And we got to fix rotation of scale just to make things work better. So I'm just going to put minus 1800 there, and I'm going to make it a keyframe by pressing the I key. And then I'm going to take it right to the end. Oops, right to the end. Or is it this one? So, or you can actually select the end frame in here. And you see how it's at minus 1800, but there's no keyframe yet. So press the I key, it turns yellow, and you've got a keyframe. And what I'm going to do is actually go to frame 300, which is right in the middle. And if we actually go to the frame, oops, just let me readjust the screen slightly. So we're on frame 300, and I'm going to set this to 0. And this will actually press the I key to set another keyframe. Now if we actually look at this now, let's have a look. Seems to speed up. Does it slow down at the end? Yes, it does. And then it turns the opposite way. So quickly and easily, you've made yourself a spiral. What we'll do is we'll actually press the End key, go into view, look through our camera by pressing the 0 key, and now it's up to you to adjust your spiral. So select the camera, and using the mouse you can actually put it to your desired place. Holding shift down will allow you to move it, but I think that's about right, and I'm just going to move in by rolling my mouse wheel forward just to get that little bit closer, maybe move it down a bit, and that's it. So actually unticking this will lock our camera, so now it doesn't move. So if we look through our camera, we're back to there. So this is how it's going to look because we've added our HDRI. We've actually used our spiral add-on, and as you can see, it's quite a good effect. And what you can do then is import this into a plane. And like I promised at the beginning, what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you some of the settings so we can actually export this as a image. So what we need to do is actually give it a file name. So going to output, right, it's set to default to a temporary file, so you can actually go onto your bauble and let's have a look. Mine's on G, Blender Work, Christmas Bauble, and I'm going to call it tutorial T bauble, and then press the actual full stop key, and we're just going to accept that. So now what it's done, it's give it a name in here. If I widen this, I'll just show you, and it's 600 frames, but it's saving it as an image, which is a ping image. Right, what we want to do is actually save it direct to video. So select the video, and then what we need to do is go into encoding because this actually works, and we've got Matsuki, but it's set to video codec 8.6.264, which doesn't actually enable transparencies because you've only got RGB, so the background will be black. So what we'll do is actually go into a thing called WebM VP9, I think it is. So let's find WebM VP9. There we are. WebM VP9 enables you to actually put a transparency, so you can then import it back into Blender as a transparency on top of other objects. So RGBA, and the A is the transparency. So there we have it. We've done our scene, and all we've got to do now is render it. Oops, I forgot one more thing. Right. What I needed to actually tell you is that we've got compositing up here. We've probably got denoise enabled, and we probably don't need it enabling. So what we'll do is we'll actually go into our compositor, and this is where you actually add this sparkles to things. So go into new, and we're going to add in a filter, and we're going to add in a denoise filter, and what we're going to do is add in a glare filter. Let's have a look. Filter and glare, and in glare you can put streaks, you can put blooms, you can put ghosts, you can put fog, sunbeams, and all sorts of things. But what we can do is actually put bloom because I just want it to glow a little bit. So if we press the 12 and hit render, what you'll see is you'll see it bloom at the end. It's gone into compositing, and as you can see, it's rendered in 0.84 of a second. And there's a little bit of bloom there, and I'll just show you what you do if you actually select stars. So like simple star, F12, hit in the compositing, and it should add little stars at the end. There you go. And it's up to you because these stars are fading out, so the transparency is saved with this tutorial. I'm going to put it back to glow because I quite like the glow. Alright, so back to glow. In fact, maybe fog glow. Oh, do I want to put bloom on? Let's have a look what bloom looks like just before I actually render this scene. Yep, just makes it that little bit brighter and more real. So what we can do now is actually render it. So we've set all the actual file types, and we can render our animation. So I'm just going to render this animation, and I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. Render animation. Like I said, don't forget to actually subscribe to my channel if you found this tutorial useful, and please leave a comment. Bye for now.